A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn, every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.
So this might be a bad idea because I have to live stream in about 10 minutes, but we'll see if I can get a review recorded in that amount of time. Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. Just figured I'd try to slide in a real quick book review before I have to go live stream literally hours on a different channel. So of course, let's go talk about vampires. This is actually more of a book of legend, but where truth meets legend kind of book. I got this probably through a sale from Yale University Press eons and eons ago. And by eons ago, it probably was like last year or the year before. But anyway, Vampires, Burial, and Death by Paul Barber. And I believe it's actually an older book. Now, it does have a new preface. The preface was from 2010, but the copyright of the original book was 1988. And I used my Plague Doctor Ex Libris. But what I found to be interesting about this book is it would address all the different traditions from all over the world about revenants. So basically the dead revived. And they would address the different cultural ideas about them. What were the things that drove them off? Which dead people were more likely to come back as revenants? And a lot of the traditions for folkloric revenants versus, more the modern day idea of vampires. So they, the author did make a distinction, like this is what the modern idea of vampire is, this is what the folkloric revenant was, but this is where they kind of meet in the middle, and this is where, you kind of see branching off with modern ideas. But the author primarily focused on the folkloric revenant. So first he would address the different cultures and their ideas. This is how a person who would become a revenant usually died. This is how you can tell that someone became a revenant. This is how you could kill a revenant. So he first hits the major cultural ideas for different cultures, but a lot of them have quite a few of the same ideas. And then he explains most likely why. How it's okay, we can just look at it from a folkloric point of view, and there is definitely a lore developing aspect to it, but he mentions that folklore can develop as a way to explain things that are frightening and that people can't understand at the time. So the body is doing something that we don't understand and people are dying. Okay, how do I explain this? Okay, it's the dead. The dead are causing other people to die. The dead are causing this plague. They're doing it on purpose instead of, what we would know is like, germ theory. And, if you have mass graves, there's more of a likelihood, of course, for more people to get sick if their water supply is polluted, that kind of thing. But in a society where it's more likely that it's thought to be more likely that something is doing something on purpose to hurt you versus something just kind of happening, it makes sense for them to think the dead are doing this and they're doing it on purpose. How do we make them stop? He also addresses how the way the body decomposes actually can explain what the people were seeing that they believed was unnatural, but is just a normal part of decomposition. And so rather than just immediately discounting as imagination or just folklore with just as folklore, he go like, okay, what's the kernel of truth here? What are we looking at that caused this folklore to come up? Why is this something that's showing up in so many cultures? There has to be something there instead of just let's discount and just see it as stories. And so he goes through and he addresses not only folklorists and historians, but he also talks to doctors and scientists and talks about how, like I said, the decomposition process, this is why the bodies would look bloated or flushed, or why there would look like there was blood. But it also talks about interesting things like ideas behind why they would not have, like why they'd have mirrors covered in the houses after somebody had passed, or but have mirrors near the grave because they didn't want the revenant to have their soul be transferred to some sort of thing where they could see themselves, like water or glass, and then remain in the house, stay near the grave where you belong, kind of thing. One of the other things that I thought, actually this leads into the other thing I thought was interesting. Some of these things have carried over to folklore in this country, even to now. I have worked with, in the past, when I worked in the hospital, I remember having a coworker, a CNA, after we had a patient pass, she would open the window, and as I recall, she would close the bathroom door, but also have did she close, I can't remember if she opened the door to the hall or closed it. I want to say she actually closed the door to the hall. But she would close the bathroom door, open the window. And looking back at that, because she said with the body, the soul has to be able to escape, is the way she described it. And looking back and referencing this book, I can see, even if she didn't know the full folkloric background, also there is that idea of what the only mirror in the room was in the bathroom. So you block off the mirror and you are encouraging the soul to leave. Now, obviously that's not, I guess it's not obvious, but as a Christian, that's not my belief. But that she came from a more country background, and that might have been some folklore that was passed down through her family. And it might have been even something that she didn't quite know where it came from. It was just something that they did. And people in this hospital that I worked at did talk about the fact that they felt like they would see ghosts at night, and they would talk about the gusts of air, and that they had like a ghost nurse who would pass meds, but also have, I worked a night shift, and also would talk about, seeing the not so friendly as well. So there was very much that belief, maybe because of where in the where in the US I live. But I thought that was interesting how I could actually see some of these older cultural ideas even trickling down in a modern setting such as a hospital. And I mean, there are some superstitions around working in the hospital, just because maybe because of the proximity to death, I don't know. But that was one of the ones that I just thought was interesting in how it tied into this book. But I found this to be an enjoyable read. It did get a bit repetitive after a while, as he sometimes seemed to be making the same point. But I don't think my alarm went off. It means I have to go very shortly. But I don't think that it was completely without merit, his repetition, because it is very easy for people to look back at older beliefs and older superstitions and just sort of not think about where they came from. The idea that the body bleeds when the murderer touches it. It discusses where he thinks this comes from and how biologically why the body would react that way potentially. So even though there might not have been any, obviously wasn't any truth that the fact the guy was a murderer wasn't what caused the body to bleed, but why this folklore, this tradition built up in people's minds. So yeah, I thought that it was a very interesting idea. Also talking about why certain objects became weapons against the Revenant, because these are the ways that the Revenant were seen to attack their victims, but also why certain ways of preparing the body actually had a lot to do with immobilization of the corpse and trying to keep it from coming back. That's why the mummy was wrapped the way it is, and you have all the embalming and stuff to try to keep it unable to move until the body's completely decomposed and is no longer a danger to everyone else. That's why they wanted to go for cremation. So it was discussing these things, like maybe the ideas that we might have thought why people did something and why maybe later on they believed why they used to do that might not have actually been why they did it, and how the reason they did it actually makes more sense based off of beliefs of revenants and how to protect the living population from their dead. So I found it to be a very interesting book. Not really creepy like maybe it could have been. If you don't have the stomach for reading about the decomposition process, this book is probably not for you. But if that's not a problem for you, if you find that you don't mind reading about the natural process of what happens to the body, but also seeing how folklore builds up, where the seed of truth can eventually create a bunch of different cultures' ideas around death, this could be the book for you. I particularly recommend this to Revenant Vin, just because, I mean, it's in your name, man. So I will tag you below. And yeah, I did enjoy this book. It's been a long time of me just sort of working my way through it, just because other books took precedence. And I think when I started, it was kind of on a whim. This book kind of is a whim sort of book. Now, when you enter it, you think, oh, it's going to go into things like Twilight and stuff. No, this book was written well before Twilight, but that's mentioned a bit in the introduction about the furthering of the building of that, of the legends around vampires. But now it really doesn't have much connection at all to what it seemed to originally have its basis in, which is, let's explain what seems to be the unexplainable, because it's scary and it's less frightening to kind of know what we're up against, even though it's still frightening in a world where there's no science to the way that we have it right now. But yes, I do recommend this book with the previous caveats that I mentioned. So thank you very much for joining me. I do need to go, but I will see you guys for the next video. God bless. Bye.
Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.